Coming up on this podcast, it's been an interesting week or two for us as we've all had COVID. I'll share my experiences and an absolutely brilliant interview as well.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a f*** about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation.
Welcome back to the podcast all about energy, vitality and motivation. Got to admit, I haven't actually been feeling that much energy over the last couple of weeks. Because yes, we've all been suffering from COVID in our household, and it's a double whammy really, because obviously when you get it, not only are you suffering from what I would say for us was thankfully nothing more than a sort of mild flu in terms of symptoms, but you're also confined to being indoors, which is just not that much fun. And all the sort of things that you can normally do for more energy, like getting out like I am now and doing exercise, you can't do. So, and then actually we've been laughing a lot because I know that for many people COVID is far from a laughing matter, and of course I respect that. And yet for us, actually, the most difficult thing is that our son's childminder has also had COVID, which is so hard to try and juggle work and looking after a small human who demands 100% of attention, rightly so. And it means that we've decided that it was probably harder dealing with the fact that we didn't have childcare than actually having COVID itself. I did follow all the official guidance about isolating, as well as a few tweaks in terms of my supplements, loads more vitamin C, zinc, magnesium. I took antihistamines, which I normally only take in spring, but I took them as well. And yeah, a lot of vitamin C, let's put it that way. And feeling okay now, so I'm very grateful that we've got through it, and we have a trip planned for about a month's time, and in some ways it makes life rather easier. When I did the test, I have to say that it showed up so quickly on the test. Having taken these tests at home for well over a year and always wondered if they actually work or not, the day that I showed up positive, the line showing that I was positive showed up way quicker than the control line. It was clear that I had it, and I had it good and proper at that point. And it continued to show up for about 10 days, which was quite frustrating because you're only allowed to come out of isolation after 5 days if you're testing negative, which I wasn't. But anyway, negative now, feeling good, down by the river in West London, and you can probably hear all the birds and the train in the distance, and it is lovely to be out and about again. And I have to say, interesting in terms of recording this podcast about energy, because the main thing that I've noticed from COVID is the fact that it is quite tiring. And actually, once you start plugging into this and talking to other people about it, a lot of people have said the same thing. Your energy doesn't come back straight away. And I'm playing a form of tennis called paddle tonight with some friends, and I'm hoping that I'm going to have enough energy to get through the hour because I haven't been feeling a great deal of it. That is enough on my COVID experience. I may go into it in more detail at some point, but as I say, thankfully not too bad. And I certainly think this strain of COVID, Omicron, seems fairly mild compared to what's gone before for many people, and for me it was, thankfully. Now, today's podcast guest is Meir Schneider. Absolutely astonishing story which you will hear. Legally certified as blind, had multiple operations on his eyes as a child, and then started getting into natural eye improvement exercises, which changed his life and changed his vision as well. And you might have heard of the Bates eyesight improvement methods before. They're really fascinating to my mind because so many people wear glasses and not that many people think about how they could actually exercise their eyes and make them function a little better. Meir does, and he is world renowned, and I've been reading his book, and it's just amazing how he started using these exercises and straight away he noticed his sight got better. And I have to say, I've spent all morning in front of my computer and I've come down here by the river to record this podcast, and after a rather wet morning, the sun has come out, and the effect on the light on my eyes and my mood is so profound. I'm a true believer, and I want to get more involved in Meir's techniques, having spoken to him. So I really hope you enjoy this podcast. It's very windy, so hopefully it's not too windy on the recording as well. Here is Meir Schneider on Zestology.
Meir, welcome to Zestology. How are you?
I am so well. It's early morning here in San Francisco.
Oh, great. And, I'm reading your book, and you've been talking a lot about the light and how important it is to get lots of good light into those eyes. I guess the light's probably pretty good there in San Francisco, isn't it?
Today, it's sunny. It's beautiful. I cannot believe in the middle of November that we have so much light. The medical profession tries to tell us to stay away from light.
Yeah.
Always to stay away from light. And the sunlight scares them, everything. Truth of the matter is, the sun is very healing.
Yeah.
It's good for your heart. It's good for your liver. It's good for your eyes. Yes, there is problem with the ozone, but there's also problem with air. You're not stopping breathing air because there's problem with it. You may want to breathe it deeper through your nose so you clear it a bit better. And the less pollution, the better, of course. And look what happened in Delhi. Look what happens in Shanghai. But at the end of the day, I want to tell you, there was once an experiment where they found that bicycle messengers for flowers in London, they expected to see that they have black lungs. But they found that actually people who are sitting and walking a bit from the tube to their offices have black lungs, and they don't, even though they ride behind buses.
Really?
And that's because of circulation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the point is, the absorption of light makes a big difference. And in my difference, it was from blindness to sight.
Yeah.
I was given dark glasses, so nobody will see my involuntary movement of the eyes, nystagmus, which now I have a little bit, but it used to be 300 movements per minute. I mean,
wow.
You wonder, yeah? I couldn't focus on anything, basically. And actually taking those dark glasses off, although some kids would tell me, you look so ugly, I want to punch you, because the eyes kept moving, yeah? And adapting to the sun, and the way we adapt to the sun is that we close our eyes, face the sun, and move the head all the way from side to side. So
I've been doing that. That's in your book, yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, that reduces high pressure of glaucoma, that drains fluids from the eyes, it strengthens the retina. So basically learning to adapt to the sunlight have helped me to start and see large objects. Because I was born, just to show you, this is normal lens, and after 5 surgeries of cataract that I was born with, this is mine.
Wow. So, I need to explain that to people because most people are listening to this rather than watching it. So basically on the right, you've got a normal eye and it looks like a nice, healthy eye. And the left, there's a tiny bit of the pupil. Is that right?
Well, the point is they tried to enlarge my pupil and it wouldn't respond to it. It was in 1993. And that this normal lens You can see how nicely the light penetrates. Here, 99% of my lens is scar tissue. And the thing is, I was born with cataracts.
Right.
And that's very unusual. My kids were born with cataracts as well. And the interesting thing is I was born to deaf parents.
Okay.
And,
yes, I read that in your book. Yes.
Yeah. And so can you imagine that? Deaf and blind, huh? So what happened was that I was reading Braille. I was the quickest Braille reader in the state of Israel for a big period of my childhood and adolescence life. And then when I discovered eye exercises, I went fast and furious with them. And I worked very hard. And today I read, write, and drive. And this is like physiotherapy of the eye and the brain.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm reading your book, and I said to my producer, I've got to interview this man because I'm so fascinated by. Firstly, I've been reading your book in bed and reading out portions of your book to my wife because it's such an amazing story, how your sight started to come back. And then I'm also interested in improving my vision because my eyes aren't quite what they were, and I sort of think I don't need glasses. I just need to concentrate on getting these eyes working a little bit better.
Absolutely. And this time that so many people had the lockdown and so many sessions happen on Zoom and online, and so many people are looking at the phone all the time, they're not looking enough at the distance. You know, that our ancestors were hunters, were farmers. And even the farmers 10,000 years ago did not have satellites. They had to look and see what's happening. And so what we really need to understand is that we lowered our capacity to see the distance, and the lens became rigid. And look how many people have cataracts as a result of it. Another thing that happened to us is that we stopped using our peripheral vision. And we have wonderful exercises. Among them is an exercise where we put a paper between the eyes, and we are waving our hands to the side to start and expand our periphery. Reading, looking at a phone, looking online makes you not pay attention to your periphery. So the important thing for me is to bring to the public the awareness that vision can improve. But I want to also say that for the rest of the body, there's too much pessimism of what's possible. They think if the nervous system is in a direction of destruction, that's how it's going to be. If your muscles die for muscular dystrophy, that's how they will be. And if you look at my history of the last 50 years, I worked with many, many people who have muscular dystrophy and got their function much better. And so I think it's so important for us to believe in the potential of the body.
Yeah. And I'm very interested in how the eyes link to the rest of the body as well. You know, I mean, there's a lot of, it's quite common sense when you think about it, but you know, you talk about getting that light into the eyes, especially at the start of the day. And that's something I'm very conscious of now. And we went on holiday recently to Cyprus, where the light was beautiful and then so bright. And for this time of year, it was so light compared to London, where, as you can see outside, it's fairly grey now. And I felt like, especially in the morning, I could feel myself sort of filling up with energy as I was doing some of your exercises, turning my head from side to side as I looked at the sun with my eyes closed and doing some, is it called cupping? Palming, that's right. I was doing some palming as well. Yeah, and I was greatly enjoying that. And I could feel myself, you know, really opening up and energized from that.
You know, the hands are wonderful healers. And palming isn't simply resting from light, which is definitely the case, which is a good idea for everybody 3 or 4 times a day for 6 minutes to put their hands very gently around the eye orbits and rest from light. But the most important thing is that the palms can transfer life and energy to the eyes. And for that reason, it's good to rub the hands. It's good to interlace the fingers and move the arms in rotating motion to relax the shoulder, you know. And the more relaxed your hands are, the more they can really relax the eyes. That's basically the case.
Yeah. And so how much do you believe that the functioning of the rest of the body and what happens in the rest of the body is linked to what is going on in the eyes?
I think very much so, because if you look at most blinding conditions, they're a result of not enough blood flow to the optic nerve and to the retina. So, for example, not enough blood flow to the optic nerve can cause nerve degeneration and also a disease we all know called glaucoma.
Yeah.
Because glaucoma leads to the death of the optic nerve.
Oh,
Also,
right. So I have that in my family as well. So I believe that's hereditary.
Yeah, there is a tendency, there are 17 genes connected to it, but genetic tendency isn't necessarily outcome.
Yeah.
And so, for example, when we don't have enough blood flowing to the eyes, that can increase the pressure. And the increase of the pressure can lead to less blood flow. And the pressure is between the cornea and the lens. The fluid doesn't drain well enough. But on the other end, you don't get enough blood flow to the optic nerve. So loose neck is really number one. If you don't have a loose neck, and most people don't,
Oh, I've got a tight neck. I've got a tight neck, Meir. Yeah.
If you look at most politicians, they do this, they look forward, So many people have tight neck, and that is basically the place that it can make you vulnerable and make it very hard for you to supply the energy that you need for normal function. And that's how you lose your vision. So doctors have bandage approach, as you know, drops when they don't work, laser surgery when that doesn't work, other surgery when that doesn't work, they do all kinds of irrigations. But that's not the whole story. The story begins in you not animating your eye enough, resting it enough, and having enough blood that flows there. Now, that's also true about retinal problems. Wet macular degeneration is the number one killer of central vision problems. Number one, the macula works in such a way where you look from detail to detail. Because, do you remember in my book, I talked about 10 steps, and I talked about my daughter, if you remember, that her lens was removed when she was 2 weeks of age.
I do remember that, yeah.
And her cornea was small to the extent that her surgeon was courageous to remove her lens. As you see, when we need medical practice, I use it for me, for my kids, for my clients. Sometimes I talk them into medical procedure when they don't believe in them. But here comes the next thing. Without glasses, she should be able to see 2.5% of normal vision. Only 5% because not having the lens, and another half of it because the cornea is small. It's called microphthalmic eye. So she has microphthalmic, aphakic. Anyway, I trained her to look at details. And it was really an interesting process of me getting her to put obstruction over a stronger left eye and got her to look at flowers and petals with her weaker eye from near. And she started to look at them. She was able to count 200 petals in 56 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was quick. And guess what happened? Without glasses, now her vision is between 70 and 75% of normal vision.
Wow.
With glasses, it's 100%. Well, most kids who are born with cataracts, or most adults who are born with cataracts, if they don't have complications, which many of them do, what happens with them is that the vision is about 30%, 40%, and it's wonderful because people who were born with cataract in my generation, the vision was 5%. So looking at details, even without your lens, even with small cornea, caused her to see normally. And she definitely is driving, and she does wonderful work in this city of San Francisco. She helps homelessness, and She's an activist, and she's does a lot of paperwork. She's fantastic. My son also sees amazingly, even better than my daughter. And the thing is, looking at detail activates your macula, but we stop looking at details because when you look at books, you're interested in contents. You're not interested in the shapes, unless you look at choreography or something, So the point that I'm saying here is we need to start and look at details to animate the macula of the eye. We need to pay attention to the periphery to animate the periphery of the eye. We need to look at the distance to relax the lens and to activate the muscles. And we need to have great connection between the brain and the eye, something that medicine does not do.
Right, yeah. So we'll come back to your story in just a second.
Just interrupting this podcast for one moment to tell you that my podcast partner today is Sensate. This is something that we absolutely love. I even take it on holiday. I travel with it. It is groundbreaking technology all around wellness. And it's best described as a pebble that hangs around your neck, a sort of high-tech pebble. It uses the natural power of sonic resonance to calm your body's nervous system, providing immediate relief and long-term benefits from regular use. If you're someone who is prone to a little bit of anxiety at times, yeah, that's me, then it'll provide instant calm. Here's what it does. Here's what Sensate does. Calms your nerves, improves stress resilience, and if you are one of the thousands of biohackers who listen to this podcast and wears an Oura ring, you'll be interested in the third bit. It increases heart rate variability. I have definitely seen that. And you can even measure that if you use the Oura ring at the same time. It is a known biomarker of health and longevity, heart rate variability. So to improve it is really important. It hangs around your neck and syncs up with an app on your phone, and you have a lovely little 10 or 20 minute session and relax with the Sensate on. It's a very odd sensation when you start using it, but it's brilliant technology and it really is important. And I really do believe that more than ever, we are living very jacked up lives, constantly connected, very switched on. It's hard to unplug. Sensate offers you a little moment of oasis in your day where you can do just that. So I'm really pleased that they're my podcast partners because I've been using it for at least 2 years, I think, and we still have it and enjoy it. You can go to getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton. That is getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton. Use the code TONY at checkout for 10% off. And it's one of those ones I highly recommend. So getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton and use the code TONY at checkout for 10% off. It's a good one, this one. Back to the show.
A couple of things that you've mentioned. Obviously, we talked about palming, and I wondered if we could look at a couple of things that people could do today. Maybe that and something to do with loosening the neck, because I'm sure a lot of people listening to that thought, oh, my neck's a bit tight, and I've been hunched over my computer screen as well.
Right. So a few things. Number one, walk backwards every day.
Walk backwards.
It's
Okay.
wonderful traction without tensing. I mean, you look to the left, you look to the right, but you walk backwards.
Yeah.
And it creates a good...
Don't walk back too far because I can't hear you, Meir, but...
Okay. So walk backwards and it really loosens you up. The other thing is move your head in rotating motion really gently as if you're drawing a coin.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, tap on your belly. But in a very quick and gentle way. So tap on your belly and say center.
Center.
And now move your head again. And most people who do it feel there's some loosening in the neck.
I do. I actually do. It's hurt the first time. That's mad. Why has that happened?
Because the electric magnetic forces in your belly connect to the electric magnetic forces in the earth. When you say center, you lower your center from the center of thoughts, which is in your neck, center of thoughts, which is in your chest, to the center right here in your belly.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
center, and you move your head in rotating motion, and it's a whole different story.
Wow, that is incredible. That is it. I tell you what, this is making me think I'm gonna, because I've seen you do workshops. I really want to do one. I don't know if you do virtual workshops, but if you do, I'm signing up.
We sure do, and we have them now on sale, actually.
Oh, good, good.
Right. Yeah. So we definitely do workshops online. We have them on sale online. And I'm going to visit, by the way, France, Paris. I know it's only 3 hours from London, actually.
It is, yeah.
It's the Waterloo. So I'm going to visit Paris, and on the beginning of March. I'm going to visit Barcelona if you want to go a little bit farther as we continue in March. So if people want to come to Paris for a workshop, we're going to have a 2.5-day workshop in Paris in the first weekend of March. And maybe they can come and study quite a bit. One of these days I'll return to England. I like England.
Oh, God, well, you must let me know if you do, because we'll have to meet up and say hello in person and do a recording.
I would love to sit with you over a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is that that's the one thing. Now, in terms of the eyes, number one, as you look at your computer, sometimes wave your hands to the side, near your head, near your shoulders, and all the way to the side. See if you see them without looking at them. And then close one eye and wave your hand all the way to the side without looking at that hand. And then close the other eye and wave it all the way to the side without looking at it either. And then wave both of them again. And it may give you a sense of relief of the fact that you don't use your central vision so intensively. The other thing is you can take a small piece of paper, put masking tape and put it between your eyes. And as it stands here, the small piece of paper stops you from looking intensively at the screen, and wave your hand to the side, and you do it for about 15-20 seconds. You take it off, and it's easier to look at the screen. So the idea that I have is expanding the periphery. And as I said in the earlier time in our discussion, also looking at the distance every day, waving the hands to the side, enjoying the distance, and sometimes covering the strong eye. So you have glasses of obstruction. My strong eye is my right eye. And I cover the strong eye, and I look at the distance for a moment, and then I take it off and look with both eyes. And the idea is that the brain then uses more. It uses the weak eye and the strong eye, which makes sense. You don't only want to lean on your strong leg, you want to work both legs. You don't only want to work with your strong arm, you want to work both of them. So the idea that I have is use more of what you have. It belongs to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It all makes so much sense as well. And it's funny because I think having looked into it, some of these ideas are quite controversial. It's not the first time I've looked at Eyesight on my podcast. And I think what would the medical establishment say about what we're talking about? What would opticians and the ophthalmologist sort of community say?
Well, it's hard for them or impossible to accept these new ideas. They think it's quackery, they think it's strange, whatever have you. But this is them, which means those who don't really know much about it. On the other hand, I can tell you that when I was teaching once a group of optometrists in Sydney, Australia, and there was 30 of them, a couple of them came to me and said it was an eye-opener. They all of a sudden saw that you can improve your vision. It's hard for ophthalmologists to understand that you can improve your vision. It's written in all the books that you can't, so they're not going to believe it. But I can tell you from a personal experience that some individual ophthalmologists who saw improvement with their clients were impressed. And from time to time, like for example, I got an optometrist, this book, Vision for Life, is translated to 17 languages, So one of them is Hebrew.
Great.
Yeah, one of them is Hebrew. And an optometrist from Israel gave me a call and asked about eye exercise. She said that she's being laughed at by a whole profession, but she already reduced half a diopter, and somebody once from England gave me a call and said that he reduced 3/4 of his prescription. His optometrist said it's the first time he saw a thing like this in his life.
That's great.
That is fantastic.
So on a personal level, you meet some of them who are very happy, very impressed with what happens. And we had a meeting in France with natural vision improvement practitioners, and we always have a nice ophthalmologist who's come from Hungary, and she's a surgeon. She doesn't admit to her profession that she actually comes and meets with our group.
Wow.
But she does it. We have wonderful ophthalmologists in Argentina. I know that one great ophthalmologist in Argentina was able to convince the head of her department to do some palming that I was talking about. So, you cannot convince the profession as such of anything they didn't have in their books.
No.
And because I'm coming from outside, but it's also true about the media. I mean, I'm lucky to be interviewed by an open-minded person like yourself, but you can know that most folks think that what the doctors say is how it is. But truth to the matter is that slowly but surely, I believe, even if it's going to be after I leave this world, that sooner or later, people will understand that there's no quick fix for the eyes. Because the more you fix a problem, the next one comes. You're going to remove your cataract, and it will all look good for a while until the eye all of a sudden have high pressure. You'll take care of the high pressure, you will even fix it, and then there's a retinal problem.
Yeah.
It starts with you. It's just like they used to say, the only thing we need to do for the heart is the right medicine for the heart, to do all those incredibly sophisticated surgeries or going through the chest, opening the heart, doing all kinds of things with the vessels. And now they understand the first thing you do is change your diet and do exercises.
Yeah.
And that is the first thing you do before you need all that treatment. And they learn that there's some placebo in those treatments too, between you and me. And so what I'm saying is, it's important that already from young age, people will understand good visual habits. So I'll give you an example. I really don't think we should learn to read and write before we're 7, personally, because the eye is not built for it. It's built for bigger images and for pictures. From the age of 7, we should read and write, but then we should look at the distance each time before we do that. And now that you're in your office, you should look at the distance every hour for about 4 minutes to rest the eyes from looking from near.
Yes.
We should have every 3 or 4 hours the palming exercise for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
We should from time to time work on our periphery. And those kind of habits will maintain good vision for your life. That's why we call our book Vision for Life.
Yes.
My most famous product was Yoga for Your Eyes. It was a DVD, and it's sold 1,000 a month. I was trying to prevent the laser surgery that many people do, because I think it really is hard on the cornea that you shave a portion of it. And it's also hard with the eye, because the eye then has harmony between the cornea, the lens, and the retina. And when you change the cornea shape, it's really hard on it. And basically you make glasses out of your cornea. I didn't succeed, because the best that my Yoga for Your Eyes did, it sold 1,000 a month. And they're doing just in the US 3,000 surgeries a day. So there's not much that I move forward except with individuals. And I really think before the knife, before the treatment, work with nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that is something that seems to be fairly uniform across people who are interested in more natural methods of looking at the eyes. As tempting as it might be to go for laser surgery, work on the sort of the easy stuff first and see if that works. Now, Meir, not got too much time left, but I want to ask you, what is one book that you would recommend? I've obviously already mentioned your book, and I'll continue to mention that at the end of the podcast as well, because it's just so good. But what is one book that you'd recommend, and one tip for living with more energy?
Awakening Your Power of Self-Healing. That's a book that I've written that has 600 exercises and 400 illustrations that you can work on your breathing, on your circulation, and others. Book which is not mine that I would really recommend is The Healing Brain.
Okay, The Healing Brain.
Right, because the brain, to a great extent, is the biggest healer you have.
Yeah.
It basically sends the chemicals that you need. And what you really need to learn is how to accept the power of your brain and not let medications basically ruin your life. The brain should guide you further.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about one tip then for living with more energy?
That is the big thing. The Healing Brain talks about that. Yeah. So I would say also my book, Movement for Self-Healing, is a great book for people to look at themselves and to work with themselves. So I would say the Healing Brain is a good one. If there's a book that I like, just I'm old-fashioned. I like the book The Old Man and the Sea, because there was so much energy in that fish. So much energy in him. So that was a great thing for me to look at. But whatever gets you the sense of energy and life is what you should work with.
Well, I feel very energized talking to you, Meir. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I'm going to hopefully take one of your courses, I think.
I can't wait to see it, Tony.
Yeah. And I did that exercise that we spoke about halfway through this interview, and I sort of felt a lot looser afterwards. So yeah, definitely feeling good. Look, really great to talk. Anyway, Meir, thank you so much. Your book, just let everyone know where your books can be found and where all your work can be found.
Well, first of all, in Amazon online, but there are several bookstores in London that I'm sure have them.
Yeah.
But also, they can contact our school at office manager at self-healing.org. Main thing they should remember, self-healing.org. They can look at our website, contact us. We have sale from time to time. We're selling workshops online, our books and others. So I really hope that people will do that. And I want to see as many of you as can come to Paris in the first weekend of March.
Oh, lovely. All right. Well, look, Meir, really great to talk to you. And good luck with all your different projects. And thanks for the energy you've brought to this interview.
My pleasure.
That is it for this week's Zestology. Thank you again for listening. Thank you to Meir Schneider, and thank you to my podcast partners, Sensate. As you know, I am a huge fan of Sensate. I really do think it's a way to deliver some instant calm to an anxious mind. And speaking as someone who has a slightly anxious mind, I know what I'm talking about there. You can get Sensate with 10% off by going to getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton and using the code Tony. So it's getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton and using the code Tony. That's it from me. Have a great week, and I'll speak to you again next time.